Did not join the Sanskrit class?
Something was not there today.
There was.
There was.
I told you.
Huh? I couldn't find that.
It was an optional. No, did not necessarily have to join, but she said she wanted to join.
Yeah, I couldn't
What do you mean you couldn't find it? You should have come and asked me, then if you couldn't find it. Don't give me that crap. You want to join, you want to join. You don't want to join, you don't want to join. Right?
Oh, that's what it was. Oh.
So me, can you go and play with Toto for some time? But he keeps playing alone all the time. This is not right. And ask here to go as well. You guys should be outside for some time. All the time you guys just keep sitting on the gadgets. Then wear a jacket, beta. It's not that cold. To me. Sumi, there are other gloves, or otherwise, you can just keep your hands inside your jacket pocket. Sumi, beta, it's not that cold. Please, please. Sumi, it's not that cold, and life cannot stop just because it is getting colder. Get used to it. You have to go outside, beta. That's the only way you get some physical activity. Yeah, that's not enough, beta. You need nature, beta. You need to go. Just go out right now. Go out, I said. You answered it yourself, beta. Toto is outside. You and Hia both go and play with him for some time. Hello, Gudrun. How are you?
So, hello, Saurabh. Good
Hello.
morning.
Good
Oh, I
evening for
can't
you.
hear
Thank you.
anything yet. Just one sec. Let me see what my sound system does. Should be working. So I haven't heard anything. I don't know, Saurabh, if you said something or not.
No, I was just
Okay. Okay, then.
Meenakshi
Yeah.
is scolding me in the background, so I was just.
Okay. All right. So, okay. So I will also quickly get a cup of tea and then I'll be back. No? Hello, hello, hello.
Yeah, we can hear you, Gudrun.
Yeah, okay. I was just doing a sound check because yesterday I had a seminar with Ronnie and my microphone was not good enough. So I was not
Oh,
aware of that. So I wanted to make sure that today it's going to start without any interruption.
yes, we can
So
hear you loud and clear. Yeah.
yeah, we were blaming actually everything on Mercury yesterday because of its retrogression.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, how are things at your end? Is it are you actually also living in the New York area?
We are near Philadelphia, so not very
Ah,
far. Yeah, about 2
yeah,
hours drive. Yeah, 2 hours
yeah.
away.
And how is the situation there with COVID? Is it sort of okay now? We don't hear so much about it anymore in our news.
Yes. So I think there is probably just news cycle moves on to other things, right? So the elections are coming close, so news cycle has
Yeah,
moved to that. um, my county was actually the worst affected in my state, in the state of Pennsylvania. My county was the worst affected, but luckily for me, anybody in my known circle, I mean, I don't know anybody in my circle who caught COVID. So
really.
yeah, I don't know anyone. Some I've heard some other friends whose other friends and relatives, they, some people have died actually. I know, like through
Oh,
second hand information, but nobody in my close circles. So
yeah,
thank you.
yeah,
That's a good thing. So
yeah. Yeah, we are actually more or less waiting whether we will have another lockdown or not. So
oh really?
yeah, right now in our area is they have that traffic light system. So it's red, orange, or green, and we live in the
Yes.
orange zone now. So
Oh, okay.
and although they keep saying that they don't want a national lockdown, they might only
Yes.
do some local measurements, but
Yes.
it doesn't seem to impress people too much anymore. I think
Yeah.
people, as you said, if you don't know people who really have had it, or my daughter was telling today that there was a school closed because a teacher had it, but nobody got infected, also not in the family circle of that person. So
Right.
people are losing the fear a bit, no, I think,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, which is probably good as long as it doesn't hit any very old people, no?
True. True.
That is the So far, I think the people who are here are many of our group, many German, Austrian people, which is nice.
That is nice. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We don't get to see that too often. So that generally happens when you are in attendance, Gudrun.
Yeah, yeah, of course. I also sent the word.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. And I do see a lot of women on the call, which is very nice because these are Navratri days, right? So
Yeah, yeah, that
we are celebrating the women power these days. So that's very cool.
yeah.
Undoubtedly, Saurav. I think we are having little bit of echo for sure. I'm
Yeah,
not
we
sure.
do have. I don't think it can come from me because I got the headset on.
Huh?
It could be between you and me. I mean, if you reduce your volume, I have my volume reduced. It could be because we are on two different computers, right? So
Okay. How about now?
It's still
it's,
there.
Still there, right?
I don't hear it, but okay.
So usually if you don't hear it, then it might be your computer which might replicate the sound, no? So
Yes,
now,
yes.
now I
I'll
did,
try
now I
and be
did,
on mute. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, now Komilla has
Let me
joined
try the
too.
headphone quickly. Now I'm better.
No, it's better now. It seems to
Yeah,
be
it's
okay.
yeah. So it looks like there is some thing from the sort of side. Is that's why we are getting that
Yeah, everything bad is because of me. I know that.
echo. That's not what I said.
No, but
I'm interpreting
Komilla
it.
ji here.
when Nick and I are doing something together, we have the same problem. No, we sometimes really have to close the door in between, or use, or one of us stays away from the audio, something like that. Yeah, so I think Komilla is there too.
Yes, she just came in, which is lovely. So we are having a women power here. So we have
Yeah,
around
definitely.
80% women in the attendance.
So for the Indians, Dr. Charak and so on, what is the time there? That is rather late in the
10:30.
evening, no?
Yeah, 10:30.
Yeah, okay. So they might have gone to bed already. Yeah.
Yeah, usually I have seen in India the trend is more towards they in the mornings they have difficulty in getting up. So in the
That's true. In the
yeah,
evenings, they are awake
I
long.
think that they are awake till very late.
That's true. Although I think Dr. Charak is an exception. I think he hardly sleeps. No, I think he can stay up very long. And
Undoubtedly. In the US time, 8 p.m. sometime he gives a message saying that now I will go to sleep. So
yeah,
it's
okay.
already 5:30 a.m.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that from the days when I met him in Delhi. I spent quite some time in Delhi, and then he was telling like he had just 2 hours of sleep and he was called for a surgery, and it was okay. He said, I was fresh, and I
Yeah,
really admired that.
lovely. So today, Gudrun, you know Komilla ji so well, and Komilla ji know you very well. So we would like to have a mutual introduction. Is that a possibility?
Of course, from my side and
Yeah. And
probably
from the
from
Komilla's side, she is doing your introduction, and then we will here to more hear from you, and let the team everybody hear about the Komilla's. So overall, I have booked only 1 hour for
yeah.
everybody. But if there are more questions, we can definitely go a little over. But we would like to just get into the agenda very quickly and start to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that is wonderful. And I have a few pictures here on my computer from Komilla and our past together. So can I present those when
Yes.
yeah?
Yes, that's exactly your floor, Gudrunji. You just go ahead and do because you will be asking question, you will be facilitating it. So please.
Okay, fantastic.
And there is no, I will say, kind of an agenda to be able to,
Yeah,
like Jyotish Mela, we used to have 20 minutes talking about it. So we will not be doing that. We'll just give a brief background who we are, and then we'll get started.
fantastic. Okay, so that's all settled.
Yes. That's it. So, and for that, I definitely want Saurav to unmute himself. Saurav, will you be able to unmute yourself and talk a little bit about the agenda, about the Ashra Jyotish before we get started? Few minutes?
Yeah, I could do that, but I think most of the people probably already know, so we'll keep it brief.
Sure. That's exactly what I'm saying. Keep it brief and we can get started. So, in between, what I will do is I will start the recording. Yes. So, hello everyone. Thanks a lot for joining. So there will be more people joining in. Before that, we will just quickly get started with the mantra and take a brief about who we are, and then we'll get into the interview. I'll pass it over to Gudrun, and there will be a mutual introduction between Gudrun and the Komilaji. They know each other very well, so we are here to hear more from them. So with that, I would like to pass it over to Saurav to talk to do the mantra and as well as do an introduction of Ashra Jyotish. So Saurav, are you comfortable to do that? Saurav, you have to unmute yourself.
Oh, sorry about that. Yes. Thank you. Thanks, Meenakshi. All right, let's just do the mantra and then we'll get it. So please close your eyes, focus on your breathing. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Om Tat Sat. All right, so thanks a lot everyone for joining. We are here today for a talk between Gudrun and Komilla ji. Both of them have been visiting faculty with us for the Jyotish Mela that was concluded last month. Um, as the lead up to the Jyotish Mela or the Jyotish conference, we did a lot of introductory talks. We did some interviews, and we are continuing that series to know a little bit more about the teachers, know their life journey, what excited them about Jyotish, how did they get started, all of those sort of background details, a little bit, as I like to call them. Um, so before we get into that, a very very quick brief introduction about who we are, as Meenakshi said. So we formed this organization called Arsh Jyotish, which is a non-profit organization incorporated in Pennsylvania, USA, about a year back, I would say. Um, this whole initiative of teaching Vedic astrology was started by Rakesh Sharma about 26 years back, um, under the guidance and auspices of Pujya Swami Dayanand Saraswati ji of Arshivadya Gurukulam. That Vedic conference, or astrology Vedic astrology conference, is probably the longest running non-interrupted conference in North America since then. Um, so about a year back, we IM actually got involved with that, and we started talking about how do we foster year-round engagement with the students, and that's how this whole idea came about. And today, where we stand, we have a lot of online classes that are ongoing. We recently ventured into Ayurveda as well, with the idea of promoting and propagating not only Jyotish but other related Vedic knowledge systems as well. We do intend to get into Vastu in future. We intend to get into acupressure and other such knowledge systems which are um, important and very helpful for your spiritual knowledge as well as your continued growth. So, if you have any questions, if you want to know more about the work that Ashu Jyotish is doing, please feel free to visit our website, which is listed here, www.jyotish.com. And if you have any further questions, we would be happy to answer. You could drop us an email or reach out to Meenakshi, who is pretty much always on. With that, I'll stop here. I'll just replug what I said earlier. I know Gudrun is very passionate about the women power. We have a lot of females here on this call. You have the three leading ladies, who are all, organizing this talk today. And it's the second day of Navratri, which essentially is the celebration of the Nari Shakti, or the women power, as we say, right? So such an auspicious moment, and I'm so grateful that I'm here to be able to listen to Gudrun and Komilla ji. So with that, I'll hand it over back to um, Gudrun or Komilla ji, whoever. Please take the floor. Thank you.
So thank you, Saurav, for this. So Komilla ji, just for you, we will get started with the introduction of the Gudrun. So if you can just take few minutes and talk about Gudrun, and then the questions will be coming more from the Gudrun, and we'll go ahead from there.
Okay. Well, happy Navaratri to everybody. And it's really nice to be here and talking about Jyotish, which I'm very passionate about. And it is nice to discuss it with Gudrun, I think, who's equally passionate about it. So we have Gudrun and myself, we have known each other for many years, since the 1990s. And, the whole concept of starting Jyotish in Germany and all Germanic speaking areas and Europe, it's all courtesy of Gudrun, Once they started, they had many members. And as you know, with the start of Arsha Jyotish as well, that commitment is very important. And Gudrun and Nicholas Lewis, both of them who are pioneers in this all through Europe. And I think that it was a great service to Jyotish you did, Gudrun. But the most important thing was that it was not a hybrid Jyotish that is being taught. One of the problems is with Jyotish is that, or with any other subject that comes out, that there's a great tendency to kind of mix it and work with different areas. But Gudrun and Nicholas, with really serious Jyotish proponents, and always bringing speakers from all over, international speakers as well as speakers from India to their conference, and of course now online conferences. And so Gudrun has a great contribution, also has written books. I remember your Moon book. Not that I understand it because it is in German, but has written and taught. As I was telling before, that I learned from Gudrun because Gudrun started teaching by phone before internet became, everybody had internet, and would teach around Europe by telephone. And that was quite innovative. And then I remember teaching nakshatras for DGVA, which is the, I think now the name has changed, but which is the German equivalent of an organization. And I found that really very useful because the students were somewhere else, Gudrun was somewhere else, I was in a different country. And I started my courses, online courses, after having that very good experience. So thank you, Gudrun. And I think that Gudrun continues to keep her passion, and now also has, introduced a lot more Vedantic teaching to the students, because it's very important that as Jyotish students, we should be aware of the Vedic knowledge, Vedanta, Vedas, plus also about Ayurveda, Vastu, Yoga. There's so many allied disciplines that kind of slot in. And for each of those disciplines, the knowledge of Jyotish is very important. For example, even in Ayurveda, Jyotish is very important. And Gudrun, of course, has been involved in health as well. And so it is my great pleasure today to talk with her and discuss with all of you. So over to you, Gudrun. You need to unmute yourself.
Unmute, yeah. Yeah, thank you so much, Komilla ji. That is so nice to hear from you. Although I think a lot of what we did was only possible because of you, because you wrote that book. Your Essentials of Vedic Astrology was translated into German. That must have been in the late 90s.
Yeah.
And then everything started here in Europe. So in some sense, I also consider you to be a little bit more European than any other your nationality, because you were living in England back then.
I know, I still feel European.
Yeah. And we met in Bava, and actually I think the first contact with Komilla we had when Nick was going to the first Bava conference. That must have been in the 99 or something, 2000.
97.
Okay, so that's something where I would actually like to come back to and ask you a few questions about how that organization came into the picture. And I just spotted that Gordon Brennan is also in the audience, whom I haven't seen in years, but obviously whom I know as well as one of the associates and even founders of Bava. I don't know, was he?
No, he was not, but a very early member.
Yeah, no, very early
yeah,
member. Yeah.
I'm
but
here. Good afternoon. Good morning.
Hi,
Afternoon.
Gordon.
Hi, Gordon. Good evening. So before we go there, I would just like to take you into a short presentation, which I am. So let's see if that presentation is coming up. So this is the picture. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the quality is not that great, but that was our very first conference we had in 2002. I think we had our first conference. And obviously Komilla is here, and also Steve Hubble from England was one of the speakers of our first conference. And also this huge guy there in the middle is Roland de Loef from Holland. And he also actually wrote a correspondence course which was ACVA acknowledged and which is still around, I think. And I think we together were sort of the roots of Vedic astrology in German, but all with Komilla's help. The very fact that Komilla supported us and that she came to our first conference, I think that got a lot of European attention because a lot of Germans knew your name through that book of yours, which had been translated into German by then. This was our second conference in Germany. That must have been 2003. And here on the left is Nalini Kantadas, then Komilla, and then Maria Louise Mattes, who was actually very funny, always having her notebook ready. And I remember on one of the first dinners when we were pretty shy with each other because we didn't know each other well, you were mentioning something from your private life, and Maria Louise Mattes immediately said, "Can I have your data, please?" And that was that. And then Ernst Wilhelm, of course, and the younger version of me is there as well. And that was, again, one of our meetings when you were speaking and I was translating. Here is a picture when you were with Andrew Voss in our home. That was in our private home where we had a dinner together after one conference, and where I ended up with Andrew talking about for an hour and trying to introduce me into his software, Shriyoti Star. And obviously your private driver, Waltraud, is here as well. Took you for a few detours. The journey back from the airport was never a short one with the two of you. They started chatting and never made it on time. Another picture of you with Edith Hathaway there in the corner. And this is also, that must have been the same year because Edith and her partner or husband are there, and Ruth in the beginning here in the front. No, you probably remember her. Another picture of Komilla in action. I like this one. But I think this I like even more. This is such a nice picture of you, I think. No? I think for those of you who have never met Komilla in person, Komilla is not only a very, as everyone said already, a very committed and enthusiastic teacher of Jyotish. She also has a very kind and soft and charismatic personality, which everyone notices who knows her in person. And I think this picture has sort of captured that very nicely. And I think this is, again, not so good the quality, but still I didn't want to miss out on it. Same one here. So those were the pictures over the years. And I think this is the last one I had in my European collection. That was 2012, again with Vinay Aditya here. And here, this is Nick, my husband, who's always in the background a little bit. And this is the very last one I have from Arsha Vidya last year, no? When we were standing there with Jitendra and Vinay Aditya, obviously, and Sunil John here on the right. Yeah, and I think these pictures probably tell probably more of a story than anything else could do. And now I would like to really try to get a little bit more insight into things I don't know about Komilla yet. So I would like to start asking the questions, if that is okay.
Yeah.
Now, I think I have to stop. Yeah.
Yes. So thank you, Gudrun. That was a lovely journey down the memory lane, and also to see Maria Louise. We remember her fondly. She's no longer with us, but she was a great Jyotish contributor in Austria. She put inroads of Jyotish into the Austrian Western astrology community, as well as she had her own teaching, and you went and taught there as well.
Yeah.
So that is really very nice.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you don't mind, Komilla, I would like to start the journey really a little bit in the beginning, and I would even like to go a little bit further back than 2000 and 2002, I think. Was that 2001 or 2 when you invited us to Kerala to that conference, which was amazing what you did there for Aqua. And you got someone to
Yeah.
sponsor a whole Aqua conference there.
That's right. That was in 2002 that we had the conference in Kerala. That was quite an amazing experience. And we had, I think, all the global speakers there as well as Indian speakers. In fact, Dr. Charak was there, Vinay was there, and Dr. Charak just asked me what year it was. So that's why I remember that it is 2002. Actually, it was with the exaltation of Jupiter, and Venus was in Libra. So it was very easy for me to look back. And I remembered that two things about the conference, that Venus was in Libra and Jupiter was in Cancer. And so that was a really good experience.
Yeah. And Komilla, for those who don't know that or don't remember, Komilla got someone to really pay for a huge, what was that, a retreat center, a hotel with a nice pool and everything. And I was actually invited, Nick as well, but he didn't, back then he already avoided flying whenever he could. So I went on my own, and we had really that lovely ambiente. We had Ayurvedic massages in between, and it was really a fantastic international get together. But what happened before? When and actually how did Bava come into the picture?
Yeah, well, actually, Baba was, it was a kind of strange coincidences, you could say, that Jupiter was in Sagittarius. So this was 1996. We are now Jupiter Sagittarius again. So we are 24 years into Bava. And, you know, I had got Andrew Foss's phone number lying with me, and I was meaning to call him, and just didn't happen. And then one day I was just found his number, and I rang up this phone, and I was in UK at that time in Romsey. And the person who answered the phone said, Andrew is with Dr. David Frawley for this week. And so I will give him your message when he comes back. And that was it. And then Andrew called me and we met. And it was like an instant connection. And we talked and talked. And what was interesting is that many people had told me about Andrew Foss, and same people had told him about me. And we were living almost like 10 miles apart. But we had not connected. And then I said to him, you know, I think the best way is that we should maybe have an organization. And this was because I belonged to the Astrological Association of Great Britain. And I had lectured there as well. And I felt that we should have something like that for UK. And that's why, so he said, I have the same idea. And David Frawley was still there in UK, and we said we should put it to him. And so I went to King's College in London to meet David Frawley, and Andrew was there, and David said, yes, definitely, it's a great idea. Why don't we ask Dr. Raman to be the patron? And so those days, you know, no email, so snail mail, we sent a letter to Dr. Raman. And he gave his blessings, and he was our patron, and David Frawley. And so it was very fast. I think I met Andrew in November. And then in December 1996, we decided to form Bava, because main reason was that Jupiter was leaving Sagittarius. So Jupiter was going to go out in December out of Sagittarius, and we wanted that Bava should have. And then we decided one very important aspect of Bava was that we will do Mahurata. So we are going to choose a date for Bava. And so we chose 16th of December, where Sun was in Sagittarius, just gone into Sagittarius, and Jupiter was in Sagittarius, and Mars was in Leo. And of course, obviously, we chose correctly because, and Moon, I think, was in Leo Lagna, and Moon was in Purva Ashada. And so we got a Jupiter Dasha for Purva Bhadra, sorry, Purva Bhadra. So we got Jupiter Dasha to start Bhava off in a very big, quick way. And so, therefore, despite phone, sending by physical mail, Dr. Raman, everything came together. And then we decided that we are going to start by doing lectures and workshops in London. On one, I think it was either the first or the second of the workshops that were in London. And we used the facility that I was using, which was a Western astrology facility and we had this huge number of people came in, and that was Gordon and Jeffrey, who were part of another group who were studying Jyotish, and they brought big support to us right at the beginning. And so that's where, Gordon has been a great contributor to Bhava almost from the beginning. And we've never really, had really good chemistry and no dispute with us all through Jupiter Dasha. Then, of course, Saturn comes, so we had to restructure and everything. But we are, lively organization out of UK still, although I'm living in USA, Andrew's living in USA. But a lot of the pressure is on Gordon and Jeffrey, who are in UK. But we do it all online, so it doesn't really matter where we are. And our conference is always in April because we are Leo Lagna, and so we always choose to have a conference when Sun is exalted. So it's always with an exalted Sun. So as you know, Bhava is still going, and we have a good advanced members that are part of our organization.
So that Muhurta was really a good recipe, I think. No, that really worked well because when we went for the first Bhava conference, I think Nick came first, and next year I came with him. That was just in the beginnings of the 2000s, and it was an amazing crowd already there. No? And you had speakers from America, and I never would have thought that you only started some years ago then. No, that was really fantastic.
I think the Muhurta is very important because it kick-started us. We had a good Jupiter, and we chose every time. We have chosen the few times that we kind of, what happens with Muhurta, those of you who are used to it, is electing auspicious time, is that sometimes you talk yourself, okay, this is okay. And, you talk yourself out of a good Muhurta. And so last year, twice we have not had the conference. The first was and both times it was due to our, the Muhurta, we compromised on the Muhurta. And once the conference didn't happen because of the Icelandic volcano.
The volcano,
But the conference still happened. I didn't go there. People did a lot of struggle. There was somebody who came from Japan. I don't know how many countries he visited before he was there for the conference, but no flights were leaving USA, so I couldn't come. I did my presentation online. And the only time we haven't had the conference is last year due to the pandemic. Because we decided not to have the conference. And of course, it was correct because there was no audience. And both times we compromised on the Muhurta. So
Well, but that's the whole problem about the Mahorata, because you cannot find the perfect one, so always within a given time. But I think really we have to congratulate you for keeping that good work up, although you went to the US then, no?
no, we are all
Yeah.
passionate about, I think, not just about Jyotish, but also teaching it in the correct way. That
Yeah.
is the main thing, because it's teaching the correct teaching and getting the good speakers so that we can promote it.
Yeah.
Mm.
And you just mentioned it before. I think you are also somebody who really preached a lot of differences between the Western and the Indian astrological communities. No? You were speaking on German conferences, I know, and also for the Western society, and I even think for American organizations.
Yes, I've spoken to in all the organizations, international organizations. I spoke in Switzerland as well, German, UK. I was also on the council of the Astrological Association for many years, because it is important for Jyotish to be heard and known, and people to recognize its authenticity and knowledge. And I got invited, and I'm never the person to think my astrology is better than yours. I always feel that all good astrologers, all astrology is good, and you have to be a good astrologer. That is the main thing.
Within your system, no? And
Mm.
to go on a more personal level, if you don't mind, what was your incentive to get into Jyotish? How was your personal journey into that?
You know what happened? I was in India in 1979, so it's a very long time ago. And I still remember the date. It was 11th of November. A friend of mine had started, he was a Sanskrit scholar, and he started, doing a deep study of Jyotish. And he looked at my chart. Until then, I was totally not interested in astrology. I used to avoid getting my chart done because there's always bad news, you know, and I
In
didn't
India.
want that. And it always people would, look at my chart and say, and I had no knowledge. But when he spoke on a very philosophical. He was from Shanti Niketan, a Sanskrit scholar, a spiritual person himself. So that kind of, I was totally in love with the subject. So I asked him to teach me, and he wasn't really teaching me, because at that time my thinking was totally different. I wasn't thinking I'm becoming an astrologer. But he did all the pujas for me. He used to have this little container with put the fire. He would go to the shops, buy the correct wood and buy the correct ingredients for the little mini yagyas we did, and we did everything. And it was a really interesting kind of start to my knowledge. And I kind of just started studying, and then I never mm, um, thought anything more. I moved to UK, and I kept on studying the Jyotish and learning. But I feel that 79 was that spark that, they say the spark lights in you. And that is when I started doing the astrology. And, and then I, continued studying on my own, and I found that I would meet astrologers in UK. I met two. There was an astrologer there called Dr. Mukherjee, and I was doing classes, not classes with him, just my own consultation. But I found that people would teach me. And then, James Kelleher's guru, Mr. Gandhi, he used to be living very close to me. So I used to go to him. and he would also teach me astrology. You know, he was very strict. Only 1 hour consultation meant 1 hour. His assistant would always come and say, "Time is up, sir," and he would say, "Go away, go away," and he would keep talking and telling me. Because I was so, I suppose I was very enthusiastic. I remember it's interesting that we meet there in Blandford Street, was where Mr. Gandhi's office was. And so this kind of thing continued till I went once to, my knowledge was quite deep, and I went to the Astrological Association conference in 90s. So after many years in 90s, I went, and I went as a attendee, and there was no Vedic astrology at that time at all. And they had, I think, at many years ago, they had called the Dr. Raman to the conference, but they didn't have any kind of Indian influence there. But after attending the conference, I got a call from Roy Gillett inviting me to come to the next year's conference as a speaker. So I'm told that's very rare, but because Roy was also very interested in India and spirituality of India, and he wanted, and that was my start. I lectured there, and I remember that I had huge crowd there first time lecturing, but I was prepared, and I had my always philosophy is more spiritual and making it easy, not so this is destiny and you can't fix it. So they were a bit afraid that I would talk like that, but it was a very successful talk, I can say now. And then Nick Campion, he asked me to write on Vedic view in their book. They had a kind of a journal, and I would do they had a thing called Transit magazine with it. And I would do a Vedic view every month. For years I did it. And then at I would attend the conference every year, and we invited them for our first Baba conference, because we felt it was important to have, so both Roy Gillett, who was the chair, and Nick, who was the president of the Astrological Association of Great Britain, they came to our first Baba conference. And then we, they asked me to join the council and so I was there supporting for many, many years. So I think that led me to also make contact with people all over the world. I've spoken internationally, just about everywhere, I think.
Did you actually ever find out which part of your chart made that possible to happen? Is there a secret for us? That things just fell into place, no? And it also seemed that you did not study Jyotish seriously before you came to UK, which is also interesting. No? You come from India to UK, and there you get a more formal teaching.
I think the thing is this, Gudrun, that firstly, when you move away from your home country, maybe you love it more. Because when you're living in India, there's all sorts of issues, and you're not thinking about the greatness of the subject. I mean, I was doing yoga as well. I was just studying, but it was all in bits and pieces. Secondly, I was very young in India. So I moved away. I was in my 20s when I moved away. So as I moved away, I started seeing how much importance people were giving outside, but also loving all aspects of India from an from a watcher rather. So I think that was definitely there. And maybe my Libra moon makes me look at balance, both sides, Western, Vedic. That could be one of the things that I'm always being diplomatic.
And when I think of your work, I know the first part of your work I got in touch with was Rahu Ketu, when you wrote that I still find very good book, the Rahu Ketu Experience. And then later on, it seemed that you moved very, very much into the the mythology, and you did about the deities of the Titis. You were doing talks, and I remember I still have got the recordings in case you're interested in it, of a very old Mahorata workshop. I think that must have been in 2003, which you did in
Yeah.
Bad Kreuznach. No? So, so what would you say now from your perspective? What was the area of Jyotish or Indian philosophies where you really feel most at home?
Well, I think the whole philosophy of Jyotish itself, the sacredness of Jyotish, of the spiritual background that Jyotish comes naturally with. And it was always considered a holy science. It was a science, it was technical stuff and everything you needed to know. But it was a divine background that was connected to it. And I think that the Panchanga book actually came out not so much with my interest in. I was always interested in Panchanga, but I did a workshop and I was trying to make a book on techniques of Vedic astrology. And I taught Panchanga to my students, and it was so well received. It was just amazing that all the students, I remember the class was in Pondicherry. I did a 1-week workshop on it. And it was so well received that I immediately changed. I removed all the rest of the stuff. I made the book on Panchanga and the personal part of the Panchanga.
Yeah.
And that was something that I had read in Jataka Bharnam a bit, because that is the classic that has a lot of personal, but it was just an interest of mine. Because what I found was that, especially in sometimes charts are very good charts, you have what you say, very easy charts, but people have complicated lives, and that can be because they have complex panchangas, and the opposite. But really it was my students who when they were studying, and there was just so much interest in it, that I wrote that book, which was my research totally. And the deities are important. Even in my Nakshatra book, I talk about the deities, and I have a new book coming out now next month on the Vargas. And so there also, because Sage Parashar has mentioned them all the time. And especially on Vargas, he doesn't explain the Vargas at all. He just gives all the deities. So therefore, that is an important aspect, because there's something secret going on there that we can understand.
Yeah, no, I think that was really a more or less a breakthrough, that Panchang book, no, when everyone was only looking at the Panchang for Mahorata, and you took that one step further. But then you also went, I think, quite a bit into Nadi astrology as well, no, when you were doing different nakshatra Nadi techniques. And I think that was also quite unique. I haven't heard anyone else mentioning that so far.
Yeah, I think the thing is that as Jyotish is my life, I go into all the techniques. I'm growing all the time. I think that has been my personal journey, that I'm not static at whatever time I started studying. I'm growing all the time. And the Nadi technique, especially, I read C.S. Patel's book on Nadi astrology, and that was quite enlightening. And reading it and then following it, it was a very important factor for me. So I started, so that is, I mean, there's so many areas in Jyotish one can study, so that it is, and they are all layers. I think that I study something, then something new comes, I study that. And so it just develops the depth of knowledge.
Yeah. And is there anything which you would definitely say nobody should miss that? Is there something which is so close to your heart that you would say you have to study that? Don't miss that out.
Well, I think that, it is important. There are too many things, really. I would say that one has to study the Vargas, the Nakshatras, I remember when I was doing my first book, The Essentials of Vedic Astrology, the editor was a Western astrologer, and she said, "Oh, these nakshatras are no good, remove them from your book." And I fought for it, and I told my publisher, Margaret, I said, "The book doesn't make sense without nakshatras." And she said, "No, you're not, you have to decide what you want in the book." And but I would say nakshatras are very important aspect, Vargas, especially if you don't know anything else, at least study the Navamsha. I
Yeah.
think here in Vidya, Arsha, Jyotish, people are very much into that. But I think
Yeah.
if you're a beginner, firstly, you have to get a good knowledge. So you've got to have your basics there before you can go into the other techniques. But definitely, I would say nakshatras and vargas are the two things.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that is that is a sort of answer which makes perfect sense, no?
Mm,
And especially the nakshatras is a never-ending story, no? I
mm.
think you will always detect something, some other mythological story or something about them. And also, I don't know if you followed that, but Simon Cherkoisky did quite an interesting lecture on the stars of the nakshatras, which I
Okay.
thought was also a very interesting insight, not from the mythological, but more from a astronomical point of view. No?
Yeah.
So it's ever
No,
fascinating.
I should listen to that lecture. I didn't
Yeah,
listen to
yeah,
it. But yeah, I
definitely.
think the thing about Jyotish is that we can never say we know everything, because there's such a vast, big subject. That is why it keeps your interest. So say I've been studying since 79. So now it's over 40 years. And still things surprise me about the knowledge, about some secret technique or some very open technique that I had not paid attention to, because our mind can only take that much.
Yeah,
But also about my own chart. Suddenly some technique comes and I say, oh my God, I should have understood that. So therefore it is, that is why it's the beauty of the subject is that it's always um, bringing light to you and expanding your consciousness.
yeah. And how is your work today? Is it, do you do a lot of consultations or do you do teachings? What is your emphasis?
Uh, my emphasis is on broad-based teaching is important. I'm doing 8 classes a week, so takes a lot of time. And then I do some consultations every week. I have a regular program of consultations, but not like every second is booked by them, but because doing consultations and emotional experience for the
Yeah,
client as well as for the astrologer. So I don't like to overdo it because I want to give the best that I can give. So, and then I'm also, as I told you, my book is coming out, and still we are on that last bit of editing. I noticed one chart was wrong last week after having checked it hundreds of times, but I don't know how. I had only sent it, but it was totally wrong. And so just doing the last minute editing for that. Then I have a YouTube channel, so I record every week for that. So I have that as an extra thing. These days I'm not going to any conferences, so but it's just as busy because I'm doing everything online. So like this week I'm talking to you, next week I have another weekend I'm doing
yeah, yeah.
a talk for an ashram in, and then I'm doing a conference in Thanksgiving weekend. So it's just that I'm not flying somewhere to do it. So that is
But
there.
it seems a vast amount you are doing, no? And it's still I think it's very great that people can still book a personal meeting with you for or
Mm,
personal reading with you.
mm,
And there is also one thing I want to really say about you, how I perceived you, and also what also was part of our relationship. I think I never had the feeling that you were looking at any other astrologer as a sort of competition. you always seemed to me as a person who was really sharing. Like, for example, I remember, I don't know, 15 years back probably, you said you got to go to Constant Contact and you got to write those newsletters. And I said, okay, we will do that. So there was not like, I'm keeping that secret and I'm trying to get my people. I always experienced you as somebody who was really open and shared whatever experience you had, which I think is really brilliant and needs to be said in public.
Thank you, Gudrun. No, I always felt that there's no competition, because if somebody comes to me, they come to me because they like what I'm doing. And so many times people will go to a number of astrologers, and I don't feel that. And they're all my friends, really. So from my point of view, if I have an opportunity, I'm promoting Jyotish and their knowledge. And we invite people to Baba. I have my own conference as well now, where I'm actually encouraging my students to lecture.
Yeah, yeah,
And so I want to promote I think it was something in my heart always to promote Jyotish. And so if I can do that, that is my aim.
yeah,
And
yeah. And also, that was the other thing which I thought was very unusual, no? That you called that fresh talent a class, no? What you were doing, a conference. So you are taking people to India and they get a program where they have partly absolute professional speakers and partly also long-term students, senior students who have come up with their own interpretations. Or is that how it works?
That's right. After they've studied 3 years with me, then the fourth year is really they must learn to speak publicly.
It's even
And
part of your programs.
no,
They
it
have
isn't, but
to.
that's how I think that they
Okay.
have to do it. And then, of course, the senior astrologers now they are speakers or they are teachers in their own right, and they are. But it was, but also to have the senior astrologers from India. I was also looking for new astrologers from India
Yeah,
as well that people hadn't met. But that was mostly I've done it in India. I did one in San Francisco, and I think the next one will be online because we can't go anywhere.
yeah, yeah,
But the idea was to encourage the students to learn how to speak, and it is quite a great exercise because people offer such unique and fresh points of view. And then they learn from the masters who have done it, like Dr. Charak or Vinay or Professor Jayashekhar, that they can learn that this is how it should be done, you know. And
yeah,
it's again a bigger picture than just studying with me. I want to encourage people to learn the knowledge where the knowledge is, just like
yeah,
with any other important subject. One person cannot have the full knowledge. So I always encourage them to attend conferences and meet with other teachers and
yeah,
people.
yeah. No, I think that is really something which is not something which you don't find with every teacher. So that doesn't seem to be a very big ego involved, which
Mhm.
which tries to keep people away from other people, just the other way around. No?
Mm.
And also, I don't know how much you think that is important, but I always feel that the personality of every single student we have will also come into the picture. And obviously, they will look at things differently on the basis of their own experience they bring before they even come into Jyotish.
Mm.
So how do you actually manage to encourage people to get started? Because that is sometimes the most difficult step to take.
I offer them the opportunity. Some of them don't take it, and then I'm open to them for them to share their presentation with me, which I can run a critical eye on and explain to them how they can change it. And then they talk to each other as well, and they get help from each other too. But so some people are naturally more outgoing, are more happier to do the presentation. And then once they start doing it, they realize that they are you can see the improvement year after year, and the
Yeah.
confidence as well. And then the audience is not big, and they are also of the peers, so people who are encouraging them to
Yeah. Yeah.
be
Oh,
there.
that's
And so sometimes people have a block or something, but everybody is supportive to help them come out of it.
I mean, that really sounds fantastic, I think. And
Mm.
at this point of time, because Meenakshi said we should sort of keep 1 hour in mind,
Yeah.
I would maybe like to ask if someone in the audience would like to ask Komilla a question. So if anyone wants to write in the chat or unmute yourself,
I think
then
Abhishek has asked thoughts on destiny versus free will.
Yeah, I was also seeing the same thing, Komilla ji, if you can
yeah, okay.
highlight on that.
Yeah. So I think this has been the main question that I've been asked. When I used to especially go in Western astrology conferences, they would say, "Oh, I don't want to study Jyotish because it's all about destiny and fixed destiny, and that is your destiny." And so I have learned how to answer that question rather well. But actually, it is a lack of knowledge of Jyotish, that you think there is a fixed destiny for everybody. That means you're born in a certain place, you have certain parents, you are born with planets, certain type of planets, like we are all experiencing COVID just now. But the main aspect of Jyotish is free will. But exercising free will is very difficult, because the free will is how are you going to react to this situation? That you have certain fixed situations in your chart, just like your own birth chart is fixed. You can't change it. Dashas are fixed, but what are you going to do about it? How are you going to react? I remember my first question to my Guruji, Ajit Sinha, was also this when he said my chart. And I said, Ajit, I never called him Guruji or anything because he was also my friend. And I said, Ajit, what am I going to do about it? I have Saturn in the seventh house. And he said to me very profound words. He says, Komilla, if you can do something, you will be so powerful. Because he says, mostly you people don't do anything. They just take it and they say, oh, this is my issue. But if you can work with it and overcome whatever, maybe not 100%, but so the free will is to firstly look at your chart. And this is what I tell my students and clients as well, but more students, because they are learning that, this is your chart. So there are certain things that are there, but how are you reacting to the situation? What are you doing? How are you exercising your free will? And at the same time, so therefore that question is there. Certain things, even in the destiny, there are some very fixed destiny issues that we have to deal with, but there are flexible ones that, adrid karma, that we can resolve easily. So I think that is my viewpoint, that we have certain destiny, but we are also obliged, in the Vedic thinking is also that, and also the Jyotish thinking is that why do we study the chart? To know what is our weakness. Why do we study the planets? Like what are the transits and the dashas? Is to understand the weakness of time, so that we can take balancing action and we can do something. What is our winning against it? That is, it takes time. We can't always win against everything. That is there.
Most
And
difficult part,
yeah,
not to
yeah,
change their own patterns. And
yeah.
are you actually also very much involved in doing parihara or upaye these days, or are you more going on that journey to tell people, well, look at that and handle it differently?
See, there's different parts of parihara or remedies that you can do. You see, for myself, I do all the remedies, and there are some common sense remedies which are very important, but there are spiritual remedies which I do regularly. As far as clients and students are concerned, that is their own journey. If somebody is interested, I think it's important to study the subject. then you know what remedy you're doing, otherwise you're just being told all sorts of remedies that are there to do. So therefore remedy is important, but one has to have a correct viewpoint of how much remedy you want to do. And but it's like something that you have to have an annual plan about, that what
Yeah,
are you going to do.
I think you are the only person whom I ever heard saying like something like, I was translating a chart of a client years ago. I don't know if you remember. And that lady had the sun debilitated. And you said to her, every year when the sun gets into Libra, make sure you do a donation, for example, for some medical purpose. I think you said send 100 euros to Dr. Charak or something.
That's my favorite medical. I give that advice to everybody, Dr. Charak's organization, because we know that that he's making all that effort. And so yes, donation.
Do you have more remedies like that, which you maybe write a book or an article about, or
Yeah.
something
like it comes naturally. You can make donation. Donation for food is another very good donation to help older people. There are a number of things you can do that are not just doing the puja. That is, of course, if you are following the Vedic way of life, then you can do the puja, the mantras, the things. All those things are further, but a lot of stuff you can do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I mean, that is really something, in case you haven't got another project after the Varga book, you might keep in mind to do something like really like daily or monthly or something like that, because I'm pretty sure that lady is still doing that, not to get relief from her health issues, which obviously people are more prone to have if they have a debilitated son. No? So that made a lot of sense, that recommendation back then. No?
Yeah. So yes, I think a lot of people are doing it. A lot of people are fasting for Saturn. They do mantras. It's surprising that you have. I think this is a thing that Jyotishis have to be careful, that how much influence your words have. So you have to learn how to speak correctly as well. And I'll keep in mind about remedies, definitely. In all my books, the last chapter is always remedies.
No, I was really especially impressed by that, because it was so logical and simple and easy to do, and it must be doing something good for that person, no? Or for everyone who would do that. Yeah, and would there be anything else? So that would be the last question for me, in case other people have questions. I don't know how you how your time frame is, but for me it's Sunday evening. Everything is done for this weekend, so there's no rush. But the last question would be: was there anything which comes up in your mind where you were really, let's say, most touched by, which comes in your mind right away?
Well, there's so many things that touch you, I think it's difficult to just pinpoint one area that you can say. There's I would say I'm touched by Jyotish, really. I'm always reminded of what a great subject it is, and how lucky I am to know it, because it is so helpful in difficult times, in good times, and all other times. So I think that is respecting it as a source of knowledge is really very, I would say that I'm lucky to be touched by that.
That's nice.
Yeah, and I think I saw one question here. Somebody who asked about birth rectification. I think birth rectification is a complicated subject, and it's not always easy to rectify. But sometimes when I'm looking at rectification, things are very easy, because you are looking at dashas and vargas, And as you have, when you got married or when you had children, it seems to immediately point to it. So it's always difficult if your ascendant is either 29 degrees or 0 degrees of any sign. But it's not something I can say. I do it when people ask me, but it is not my, I would say, my great expertise. It's just part of my expertise. I can do it, but I don't advertise myself. But when I'm teaching in the class or we see charts, you see that sometimes a 1 minute or half-minute rectification is possible. And I just want to say, a story about Karve Saab. He rectified my chart by 1 minute. And he's, intuitively he knows, and he said
Yogi
it is,
Karve.
yeah, Yogi Karve.
yeah,
Yeah, he came to
yeah,
London and he rectified my chart by 1 minute. So
yeah,
that was
yeah.
very nice.
Yeah, he used to come to Ashavidya as well. No? I
Yes,
met
yeah.
him there some years ago. And here somebody is saying, Swati is saying that explanation on free will was the one of the best explanations I'd heard in any philosophy course.
Oh,
Which
thank
I
you.
think is
Thank you, Swati.
And there is another question, if you believe in planetary aspects in divisional charts.
I do. I look at planetary aspects and divisional charts.
Yeah, in all of them.
All
Like
of them.
Professor Shekhar once said, you should only do it in Navamsha, but you do it in all of them.
I do it in all of them, yes.
Yeah.
But Navamsha is the most often used, so that is where it gets used most in Navamsha.
Yeah. And then Meenakshi is asking, how did you get inspired for Dr. Charak's medical relief for India? How did that come?
The thing is that I've known Dr. Charak also for many years. He came to our second Baba conference, and I had maybe met him before that at the Aqua conference in USA. I don't think so. I think I met him in London. And so I was really very taken by him as his very giving, warm, clear-cut personality. He does the Vedanta. He's not into. So I've known him for many years, and I think I remember that the first time when he went to his first, this is so many years ago, the first camp he held, and with such difficult circumstances and remote places, and his mother gave the food, and it was anything. And so from that time onwards, I've been conscious about donating. And very much part of Jyotish is that many people come to you when they have health problems, and sometimes really difficult health problems. So I've always, because I know the history of his camps, and now he's trying to create a hospital. So I have always, in my own way, donate every year, but not a big sum of money. You see, you shouldn't think that I can only donate big sums of money. You can donate what you want, what you afford. I think that is most important, what you can afford, rather than. So because I knew the whole history, and over the years they'd be sending me photos and things, and then they set up a website for USA, so that I have on my email list. So every time if I recommend, I give that website. And so I have, so I think it is himself, because he's not doing anything. Even like when he was came and people wanted a reading, he was not charging fancy prices. He had some price. That's it. I want to do. His books are very clear cut. So I think he's few people like him. So therefore, that is why I promote it and donate towards it as well.
Yeah. At least you know where the money goes to, and that it's not wasted for anything. No? I remember I visited him once, and he had his whole living room was more or less full of boxes because it was very shortly before a camp. So everything that was collected was in his private space, no?
Yeah.
To save probably money for some storage place or so, no?
And it's not safe also in India. And then also they were going and doing surgery, something you cannot imagine in such kind of spare conditions. The school tables were the hospital beds and things like that. It was really something, but that was his initiative. So very good.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I think that was really, really interesting and nice. And before Meenakshi has the last let me just tell everyone a little story, which is also telling you what great person Komilla is, and that this is not only about Jyotish, it's just her. I remember some years ago we went to Heidelberg. We had a
I
day
know.
out together, and we have quite a biggish dog, no, like a retriever size. And I needed to go to the bathroom and went into a restaurant and left Komilla out with the dog. She was brave enough to try to hold the dog.
I love dogs actually.
And when I came out, you were at the far end of the road, no, because the dog had gone walking with you.
Yeah, he's big guy.
Yeah, that was so funny. And Komilla was joyful and happy, and really, really nice and tender with the dog as well as with every other creature, I think. No, so I was so pleased to have the opportunity to talk to you, Komilla, and I hope
Thanks,
people
Gudrun.
enjoyed
Yes.
it and got a lot from your wisdom and your deep, honest approach to the whole subject.
Thank you,
And Nick
Gudrun.
sends his love too. He is sitting and listening.
Same to him.
So I definitely want to add, like, first, thank you, Gudrun, for such a beautiful conduct of the interview. And at the same time, definitely a lot thanks to Komilla ji for your time, for your presence over here and sharing such a beautiful stories with us. So, definitely as a lady, I would like to just keep hearing about you, because I have been hearing a lot, like from the media and the social media about you, but now knowing the background story is really inspiring.
Thank
For
you.
us.
Thank you. I have to keep my feet on the ground,
Yeah. So
not
it's
let the praise go to my head.
But
yeah,
Meenakshi, I also think that was a great idea, that format here, not to
Yes,
talk a
I
little
think.
bit, no, a little bit more private, more personal. When do you have the
exactly.
opportunity? Thanks a lot to you and Saurabh as well for making that possible. No?
Yeah, thank you for this, because that is where I feel that we are connecting, and just a quick background how I got inspired to do that. It was so happening in the January when I have been told to get started with the online classes. I was not knowing about the teachers as well, so I was doing some Google search and trying to know about them, and I could get to some books and all that, but I was not getting who they are. uh,
Mhm.
so I got this idea, and then I started having conversation on the phone, and then I got to know about them. So I said, why not I share with the people and bring it on the platform so that they get to know each other more, because we want to connect with our teachers who is teaching us, and then again be like them as we are growing. So we should have a inspiration in front of us. So, like, I can see, so much of achievement has been done by Komila ji in years to come, but still she is so busy, spreading the knowledge and advocating for the Vedic astrology. So it's rare to have, and so definitely a big thanks from my side, to be able to hear and get myself inspired to do something and have that energy towards Vedic astrology, which I will say I come from a corporate world, so I was not knowing the importance and the dedication of life towards this, which I'm seeing now. So thanks a lot for sharing it, and I will just very quickly would like to add a few things about the medical relief for India. Very recently, even we got to know about medical relief to India, and the stories, I will not say stories, it's more about the inspiration again from the medical relief of India for the Dr. Charak. And it's a very beautiful, I will say the camps which happening and how nicely they manage it. So it's a great cause for which people should, donate, and especially how they manage it for a very short budget. They try to do a lot of work towards the needy and the poor people, and they try to give one of the best services to and going to the village. So it's a good cause for that. So thank you, Komilla ji, for sharing that story and your, how you are also associated with that one, which is a great cause. So I mean, obviously, we are going over the time. If the people have questions, we are here. Otherwise, we will definitely would go more towards like closing the session. So do anybody have any further question or anything we want us to elaborate upon? Doesn't look like people have.
Great. Yes.
Yeah.
But people speak of inspiration, and I think that is certainly what happened tonight. No, that Komilla
Thank you.
inspired people. So
And inspired you to do a little bit more on Jyotish.
Yes. So with that,
Thank
I
you.
would definitely like to close with the mantra over here. So do you want to do any closing comment, Gudrun, before we do the closing?
No, thank you. I've said everything. I enjoyed being here. And I was just thinking the last sentence when you were talking, I think you are creating a fantastic community here, Meenakshi. And in a certain way, COVID maybe was not too bad for the astrological community with your work you do and did, and hopefully will continue doing. So thanks to everyone, to you making that possible and giving me the honor of talking to Komilla. And thank you, Komilla, and look forward to seeing you hopefully soon somewhere in Germany eating some Spargel.
I know.
Lovely. No, this is really nice to hear, because definitely we are working towards that. We would like to bring, the Jyotis from the all over the place, be together, be a community, and be a advocate for this astrology. We are definitely seeing a trend. There are times younger generation do not believe in this system. It is so inspiring. So more you get to know, more you have these talks, then only they get inspired.
Yeah.
So definitely I will keep trying my level best to be, because it's one of me as well. I almost 6 or 7 years back, I wasn't the advocate for it at all. I was rather against it. So, the way I got inspired, I definitely want to bring it to the other people as well. And that's one of my passion which drives it. So with that, I will definitely not take people's time a lot. Let's get started with the closing part. So Saurav, I see your face over here. You are good in mantras. Can you do the closing mantra for us, please?
Well, I can, but going by the comment in the chat, I would actually see if Komilla, you'd like to do that. Somebody said that, can you get recordings of mantras from Komilla ji? So,
I don't know what mantra you want. What do you close the mantra with?
we either close with the Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina or with the Purnamada.
Okay.
I mean, but you could go with whatever you want. That's good.
No, I'm just thinking that I will just do a mantra for Gayatri Mantra and Surya today. Although we are both, Gudrun and myself, dressed for Mercury in green, and then I'll let you do the mantra as well. So let's just do the Gayatri Mantra. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat.
Thank you, Komilla ji. So with that, I will definitely say thanks everybody who could join us today. And
thank you.
Yeah, so thank you for all of your time.
Thank you, Komilla ji.
again. We
See
will
you.
again meet sometime soon.
Thank you, Gudrun.
Good, good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gudrun,
Thank you.
very much. Lovely to see you. And Gordon as well. Lovely not to see you, but it's nice to have you in the class.
Yes.
Bye-bye, all of you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.